You know, when you really stop and think about it, the universe is just unbelievably huge. It's ancient, it's filled with billions of galaxies, and each of those has billions of stars. Statistically, it should be absolutely buzzing with life. So why, when we point our telescopes to the sky, do we get nothing back? Just this profound, deafening silence. Okay, let's dive into this question because it's one that has captivated and frankly terrified scientists for decades. And it all kind of kicked off with this one simple, almost casual question. The brilliant physicist Enrico Fermi supposedly asked it over lunch back in 1950. He was just doing the math in his head, the age of the universe, the sheer number of stars, and he realized, wait a second, something here just doesn't add up. And just like that, a lunchtime chat gave birth to what we now call the Fermi Paradox. It's this massive contradiction, right? On one hand, the numbers pretty much scream that the galaxy should be teeming with civilizations. But on the other hand, we have, well, zero. Absolutely zero credible evidence. No signals, no probes, no giant alien megastructures, just silence. So this great silence, it forces us to ask a really fundamental question about our own place in the cosmos. In the face of all this quiet, what's our move? Do we start shouting into the void hoping someone hears us? Or do we just stay quiet and listen? And believe me, this question has split the scientific community right down the middle. You've basically got two opposing camps. On one side, you have the shouters. They're all for what's called active METI, which is just proactively messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. Their argument is, look, it's the only way we'll ever get a real answer. It's the only way to test the hypothesis. But then you have the listeners who favor passive SETI, and their view is that shouting into the dark is a completely reckless gamble with the future of all humanity. So the argument for just listening, it's all rooted in some very deep, very understandable caution. The late, great Stephen Hawking put it best. He warned that a first contact scenario could be like when Columbus met the Native Americans. Not good. I mean, since we can't possibly know an alien civilization's motives, the only safe play is to assume the worst. Announcing we're here could be like putting up a giant neon sign that says, "Free planet, come invade us." For the listeners, the risk is just way too high. In a game with unknown players, you just don't show your hand. Now, this instinct to hide, this fear of what might be lurking out there in the dark, it's given rise to one of the most chilling and honestly compelling explanations for the Great Silence. And funnily enough, it doesn't come from a scientific journal, but from the world of science fiction. This is a question that just reframes everything. What if the reason it's so quiet isn't because no one is out there? What if it's because everyone is out there, and they all know something we don't? Making a sound is the absolute last thing you ever want to do. And that brings us to the dark forest theory. It basically imagines the universe as a deadly game of hide and seek. In this game, you can never, ever be sure of another civilization's intentions. And because the distances are so huge, you can't really talk it out. So the single safest, most logical move for any species that wants to survive is to immediately eliminate any other life form it finds, before that life form gets a chance to do the same to them. This quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the terrifying paranoia of the whole theory. It paints this picture of a cosmos that's actually filled with life, but every single civilization is just holding its breath, hiding in the shadows, armed to the teeth, and ready to destroy anything that makes a peep. In a universe like that, our radio signals, they're not a friendly hello, they're a fatal mistake. The dark forest theory is a brutal, cold, game theory solution. But that kind of logic, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's born from a very specific philosophy about how we should relate to anyone or anything that's, well, other. And this way of thinking shapes everything, from how we might greet aliens to how we do politics right here on Earth. It leads us to something called a politics of worlds. So let's break down two fundamentally different ways of seeing things. On the left, you have cosmopolitanism. Think of it as the drive for one big happy family. A unified world, one set of rules, a final peace. Anything that doesn't fit into that system is seen as a problem to be solved, either by absorbing it or by getting rid of it. But then, on the right, you have cosmopolitics. And it argues for the exact opposite. It's about finding ways to connect without forcing everyone to be the same. It believes that having tons of different worlds and viewpoints isn't a problem, it's a strength. And you can totally see how this plays out in our cosmic debate, right? That cosmopolitan view, the one that wants a single unified order, it naturally sees anything foreign as a potential threat, a menace. This is the philosophical seed of the dark forest logic. If it's different, it's dangerous, so get rid of it.
The cosmopolitical view, though, it says that forcing a final peace is the real mistake. It fights to protect different ways of being because it sees that diversity as absolutely essential.
Okay, so we've walked through the whole shouting versus listening debate. We've stared into the terrifying abyss of the dark forest. We've even peeked at the philosophy behind how we treat the other. But now, let's take a final turn. Because there's an answer that suggests our entire cosmic search is asking the completely wrong question. Let's just pivot for a second. Forget deep space, forget exoplanets and distant galaxies. What if this profound silence that we're trying so desperately to understand isn't coming from out there? What if it's coming from right here? In this absolutely incredible work of fiction, the writer Ted Chiang gives a voice to the Puerto Rican parrot, the Amazon of Atata. In his story, these parents have been listening to us the whole time. They hear our giant radio telescopes calling out into the lonely cosmos. And they're listening to all this, while we humans are systematically destroying their homes, driving their species to extinction, and being completely and utterly deaf to their voices. And that leaves us with a truly profound and, let's be honest, an uncomfortable final thought. We spend billions of dollars searching for intelligent life hundreds of light years away. We are so desperate for contact, but maybe only with something that's just like us. We're ignoring the call for cosmopolitics right here, right now. The challenge of actually listening to the truly alien worlds we already share this planet with. So maybe the great silence isn't the universe's failure to speak. Maybe it's our failure to listen.